So there I am on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, and I follow Chris Leben, of course. I follow a lot of UFC fighters.
Right.
And I see that Chris says, guess what? I'm moving to San Diego. And I went, what? So I immediately tweeted him back. I'm like, bro, you got to come in studio. And he's like, let's do this. And here he is. A couple of weeks later. Dude, you're here in San Diego.
I am, yeah.
Welcome to town, Chris Leben to the UFC.
Wow.
Now, what brings you to San Diego?
Without red hair.
Well, a couple things.
Okay.
One of the main ones, wife's going to go to law school here.
Nice.
So
Oh, awesome.
she's kind of like my 401k, so
That's a good backup plan.
you know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah, gotta do it. Can't fight forever. And the other thing is, as much as I love Hawaii and as much as there are some really great guys, great training partners out here, there are just so many tough dudes in this town.
Dude, San Diego is blowing up, man. All the boys over at Alliance, we know them all really well. Is that where you're training?
That is where I'm training right now. That's where I've been going.
Isn't that great?
It is. That gym is unbelievable.
Monsters.
I mean, all you got to, the way for my next fight, I'm kind of worried about my opponent because all you got to do with this gym is show up, put your head down, and there's tough guys gunning every single day. So
I mean, the amount of talent that's over there, it's unbelievable. Obviously, Brandon Vera, our boy that comes in here every Friday. Dominic Cruz is there. Phil Davis.
Yeah.
I mean, tons of guys.
But besides those big names, there's a dozen guys on the mat that you've never heard of that are tough as nails.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
So San Diego is going to have no shortage of UFC fighters in the future. I'm going to make that prediction now.
Nice.
That lots of good guys are going to be continuing to come out of this town.
So that's amazing, man, that you made the move over here to San Diego from Hawaii, which is, you go from one paradise to another paradise, so that's not too bad.
Not so
You know,
bad.
if you got to move back to the mainland, San Diego is definitely the place.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Now, I followed your career since, the beginning, and I know that, you were from Oregon, you went over to Hawaii.
Yes.
Things started to go really well for you in Hawaii.
Yep.
Then not so much again.
Well, ups and downs, highs and lows.
Yes, you had quite a few. Your theme song that you come into
Real
is kind
high,
of interesting
real
because it's a roller coaster.
And my life is as well.
Yes.
For sure.
Where are you at now, Chris? Where talk to us a little bit about your life now.
Centered.
Nice.
More than ever. I mean, this move and my wife going to law school, this is something that a few years ago would have never even crossed my mind. I've been like, what? Leave Hawaii? You're nuts. Right. But also with the training out here and everything else, it's been a long road, and I think a lot of people still, when they see me, they instantly relate back to that first season of The Ultimate Fighter.
Which was crazy.
Crazy Chris Leben.
Yeah.
And now I'm not so crazy Chris Leben. I mean, really, I'm really realizing that I've got X amount of years left, and now that I am in San Diego, I'm at a training with some fantastic guys. I really want to see how far I can go, and that means continuing to progress both in and outside of the cage.
Now, was it meeting the wife that kind of got you a little bit more centered, or how did you get centered?
This sounds like a big life change. Like you were living in the moment, and now you're like, wow, I got to plan for the future.
That is exactly it. And really, it's been kind of a long road. It really started when I hit 30. It was like, holy crap, I'm 30. Like I never planned for tomorrow, And now all of a sudden, like there's these things like, future, retirement, taxes, all this stuff that I just
like adult stuff,
and I've had to go back and deal with it all, and deal with these issues all that I've came up all throughout my life. And man, life lessons sometimes are learned hard. I don't want to mess up anymore,
right?
And I
got too much to lose now.
I really do, and I have such a wonderful opportunity as far as progressing in this gym that I'm at. I don't want to mess things up with them, and my career. I want to be able to push it, and hopefully stack some paper. So
absolutely.
So man. I mean, it's crazy. Like I'm eating vegetables. I'm doing yoga every day.
Wow. This is not the Chris Leben that a lot of people remember.
I hate to let you guys down.
No, that's good though, man. It's good because we are all fans of yours, and we want to see you continue to progress in the UFC.
Thank you.
And so by living the way you were, you were pretty close to not being around anymore.
That's just it. I had some great performances, and then I had some not so great performances.
Well, yeah, and then as a fan of yours, sorry to interrupt, but as a fan of yours, when I would see you not perform great, I would be like bummed. Like he's not reaching his full potential.
Yes.
And like, come on, Chris, like you've got it. And I just wanted to see the best out of you, and it seems like that's where you're at.
And you're right, and that's just it. There are so many people that are. I have so many awesome fans, and so many people that look up to me, and really watch me and follow me. And man, I don't want to let those guys down anymore.
Right.
So I'm sorry, Andrew Craig. I'm sorry that you're running into me at this time and this point in my life.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, it's a good story. It's an inspiring story. Our friend Boston Rob here, same kind of situation where he was a scoundrel. This guy was a guy that lived his life in a very crazy way. He realized if I want to continue living, period, not only doing work stuff or whatever, but I mean staying alive. He had to change his ways, and he did the same thing. So
it really hit me when you said when I turned 30, because I recently turned 32, and I had to clean up my act like 5 years ago. I really did, because I was knocking on death's door. But that hitting 30 is the mark where you go. For me, I don't know if you had this feeling, but I literally didn't think I'd see the day. I said, there's no way I'm going to live to 30. So when I hit it, for me, just personally, just by myself, I was like, "What? Hey, you're alive right now. Like, let's smarten up and let's keep this tradition going."
That's just it, 100%. That 30 for me was just such a huge marker, because it's like, all the rappers and stuff, once they hit 30, they start fading on. You're not young and crazy anymore.
Yeah. You're like an adult now.
It's like, oh my God, I am going to make it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and in watching the first season of The Ultimate Fighter, it is surprising that you made it to 30, to be honest with you. Because, talk a little bit about that first season and how insane it was. And obviously, it wasn't what it is now, because it was the first season. Nobody knew what to expect.
Yeah. I explain it to people as it's kind of like boot camp. Glad I did it. Would never want to do it again.
Right, yeah.
And I don't know if they changed things too much now, but kind of the recipe for that first season was, let's take all these testosterone pumped dudes, tell them they're all going to be fighting each other, lock them in a house, give them no telephones, no magazines, no TV, and stock the cabinets with booze.
Oh my gosh.
That is what you call a recipe for great real TV.
Sure. And a recipe for disaster, too.
Yes, and as you can, if you remember the show, we had a little bit of both of that.
Yeah.
I remember fighting two doors.
The doors lost.
I'm actually 1-1 with doors. The plate glass one got its licks.
That's
too.
true. Yeah, it was a very famous scene of Josh Koscheck kind of pouring water on you when you were kind of passed out and waking up and not being happy.
Passed out in the yard, and they pulled the hose on me.
Right.
Bad.
And you were not too pleased by that.
I was not. No, that's not. I don't think that's anybody's favorite way to wake up.
Nobody would want that.
Yes.
So you can't really blame you for getting upset about that. But looking back at that now and seeing the talent that came out of that first season, the Forrest Griffins, the Diego Sanchez's, Koscheck.
The one thing about the Ultimate Fighter and the first season, and this is kind of my argument, is that you can't find 15, 20 guys at the same weight class that are UFC quality every year.
Right.
That first season, they had their pick. I think most of us, I had just fought Mike Swick for the WEC title. So most of us were already at that point where we were knocking on the UFC door.
Right.
And
how did you find out about it, by the way? How did you know about the show?
I had a little shoe-in.
Yeah.
Randy Couture was my coach at home.
That's right. Okay. And Randy was a coach on the show.
It was Randy and Chuck was that first season.
Oh my gosh.
So, he said, "Hey, Chris, send in," and I sent in, I think, probably the crappiest videotape ever.
What were you doing?
I think I just sent in an old videotape of a couple of my old fights. It wasn't even. It was supposed to be a video interview, but it wasn't. And I'll tell you a quick funny story about that. Our first interview, they said, "Okay, you're in this room. Here's a camera. We just want you to talk to the camera."
Yeah.
And so they leave me alone in this room, and I start talking to the camera. About 3 minutes later, the door busts open. In comes Dana White and the Spike TV producer of the show, rolling, laughing. They had me closed circuit, so they were watching. I had no idea.
Oh.
And I didn't do any other testing to get onto the show. They were like, you know what? You're on the show.
Nice.
I think the other guys stayed around for like another 2 days doing all kinds of different question and answer and everything else. But I think by my personality, they knew was probably pretty good for TV off the bat.
You made it a great season, and obviously you're a great fighter too because you're still fighting for the UFC.
You know, it's been like I said, it's been a long road, and the game has changed so much. If the old Chris Leben were to come into the UFC now, I'd get my ass kicked. Yeah. That's just the bottom line, you know.
Wow.
You know, the game, and you know, the one thing I have managed to do, because I am a big fan, and I do love training and progressing my skills, is I've been able, I think, to keep progressing. Keep progressing with the sport. And, you know, looking back, you see some guys that have and some guys that haven't. And the guys that haven't, they're not here anymore.
Right. And can you always say that about your career? Have you always enjoyed training, or is this a new Chris Leben?
It's definitely a lot more fun not being hungover.
Yeah, that helps.
I'm telling you, like, I think I have one of the awesomest jobs in the world. But, hungover, I have the worst job in the world. There's nothing like going into the gym and getting punched in the face.
Do you have a ringing headache already? Not fun.
So, you know, it's really, you know, I don't do any of that stuff anymore.
Awesome.
You know, like my crazy night is like a pack of gummy bears.
There you go.
Know, that's my wild night.
Splurging.
So,
Sweet.
you know, and I just, my body feels better than ever has, and I really find my time in the gym being, especially with this last week at Alliance, going back to being the dumb fighter, it's really been quite pleasant.
Yeah.
It's really been quite pleasant to just get back to kind of grassroots, get back to what got me to where I was at.
That's amazing, man, Chris. Well, I want to talk to you a little bit more about your upcoming fight.
Right.
I want to talk to you about your last fight. You got time to stick around?
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to hang out more with the crippler, Chris Leben, in just a second. But first, we got to tell you all about sleep training. One of the things that's important, Chris,